Grant, are you able to take us through our first team of the Pacific Division?
Yes, this is the Golden State Warriors. Price in my homer bias now because that's how it's going to go. The big move, traded Jordan Poole, Patrick Baldwin Jr., Ryan Rollins, a top 20 protected 2030 first rounder. Hilarious, great pick to trade. And a 2027 second to the Wizards for Chris Paul. Draymond Green is back on a 4-year, $100 million contract. Dario Saric and Corey Joseph are on board at the minimum. The Warriors drafted Brandon Pajemski at number 19 and Trace Jackson Davis at number 57. Jackson Davis is represented by Mike Dunleavy, the Golden State Warriors' new top executive's brother. So that's interesting. Dunleavy replaces Bob Myers, who I don't know how much credit you give executives for team success, but I think fairly deserves a lot of it.
ESPN's Bob Myers.
Right. Bob Myers newly reemployed at ESPN. So Dunleavy in, Bob Myers out. It still seems like it's going to be kind of a collective decision-making body. Dante DiVincenzo's gone, signed with the Knicks. Ty Jerome gone, signed with the Cavs. JaMychal Green, Andre Iguodala, Anthony Lamb. As far as I know, all three remain unsigned. I think that's still the case. Iguodala may retire. I don't know if that's been officially stated yet, but I think that's the way things are pointing. Quite a bit of activity online and some, a little bit of everything with interesting draft picks, big trade, significant re-signing that seemed a little bit uncertain as far as Green goes. All told, I think this team is significantly better. This is a B+ for me. I am concerned about the Myers void and the Chris Paul fit. We can talk about any of that stuff, but B+ for me. Where are you on this Warriors offseason?
I'm pretty high on it too, and you're a bad Warriors fan, I think, if you support like the Chris Paul acquisition, and that's just like they gave up. If that first rounder conveys, I know you're saying, hey, you just signed Poole to this extension, you turn around and then have to give up a first round pick to get him. It's a fake for if you convey it, like something has gone incredibly right for you down the line, and I think that's a big deal. I think they played the Draymond Green extension right, clearly, by not giving him one. To end up at 4 years, $100 million is perfectly fine. There's a trade kicker. It escalates. That's like some stuff to consider. But I think that deal is, I don't think it's a home. I think it's just I think it's what Draymond Green could be worth over the next 4 years, which is absolutely perfect. It's just the question of how do you view the Paul deal? If you believed in Jordan Poole, then you're not going to like the Paul deal. I did not believe in Jordan Poole. And I think getting out of that contract without having to give up a top 19 first rounder is a big deal because Chris Paul can still play. And just my question, and I think it does impact how you view the offseason, unless you're like, oh, why haven't they signed Klay to an extension yet? Which I'm just not, if they sign him to an extension, it's probably because he's taking like massive pay cuts. I think they're going to play it like they did Green. Anyway, I like it. I really think Golden State, even dating back to the Kevin Durant era, I had put this in one of my articles, they have sucked on offense whenever Steph Curry is off the floor. There were certain lineups that had Kevin Durant without Curry that worked. I want to make that clear. Chris Paul is a million years old, but if you're willing to run, pick and roll, slow things down in the half court a little bit more, he can steer you to a league average offense without Steph Curry on the floor. So my two questions are just, are they going to let him play pick and roll with, okay, who? Is it Draymond? Is it Jonathan Kuminga? It's probably not Dario Saric. So that's a question. And then what does it look like during the Steph and Chris Paul minutes? Is that going to be what you potentially close with? Or no, you're going to go with the dual big and Kevon, Looney and Draymond Green? Without having the answers, I still think it was a very fair and measured, by the way, gamble to make. And so I went with an A- here.
Okay. I think those are the questions to ask. And it really, you could even distill it further to say, what role is Chris Paul willing to play? I think, because I don't really have any doubt that Steve Kerr will run pick and roll with Chris Paul. Like, if you have Chris Paul, like, what else are you doing, right? You put the ball in his hands and he runs.
Same thing with James Wiseman.
Well, right. Except this time, there's the guy who's making the decisions can handle it. I think basically, if the theory is that Chris Paul is willing to come off the bench and is willing to go, like, God knows how long between getting to close, because I don't think he makes a lot of sense against many teams as a closer. If he's willing to just embrace that role, this should work, because Paul is going to, the Warriors would have killed to be break even in the non-Steph minutes, for years and years and years. And I think it's not a big ask to have Chris Paul and some combination of reserves and starters play break even basketball for like, you know, the beginning of the second quarter and the beginning of the fourth, which, you know, is when Steph typically rests. That has changed some over the years, but that's the idea. And the theory of this team just, it makes much more sense without Poole, because now all of your biggest problems, turnovers being a huge one, late game decision-making being another. If you've got Paul to sort of mitigate that, as long as he's willing to play the role that I think makes the most sense for the team, you know, maybe this should be an A- for me. The Myers thing.
Yeah, I don't know how to view that. It's like,
I don't
was
either.
there enough money to offer him and they didn't? It doesn't sound like it.
It seems like he was just kind of burnt, which if you've been with this team over the years, like there have been some like thorny situations, like it's been hard to deal with. So I don't begrudge him that at all. I just wonder, you never know how much elite executive matters, especially in a front office that's like getting input from, you know, prides itself on collaborative decision-making. You don't know what one guy really means. And the fact that they got the Green deal done without Myers really being super involved, it seemed like that's a positive, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think if I were moving this grade, I'd move it up. Feels like B+ is probably maybe a bit of an undersell, but there are uncertainties, I guess, is where I'd leave it.
I think, yeah, the B+ is fine. And also, I also weighted, like, it's clear that Chris Paul is a more, in theory, attractive human trade exception than Jordan Poole. So if the Warriors really wanted to make a bigger swing and look at moving Moody and Kuminga or some of the picks that they can still move later in the season when they have a better idea of who they are or who's available, I think that Chris Paul's salary and his contract, the way it's set up, makes it easier to do that, which absolutely matters. Did you have any thoughts on the Pods pick?
Well, he couldn't shoot it at all in summer league. I don't know how much weight you put into that, because he did shoot it fine in college. I just as a departure from let's take some shots on really good athletes, you know, Wiseman, Kuminga, Moody's not quite the same, or, you know, really highly regarded high school prospects like Patrick Baldwin Jr. was a ridiculously highly rated high school prospect, got hurt, flamed out. I think he still may be a decent NBA player because he can shoot it. Podziemski is like the complete opposite, where he's kind of someone that just figures out how to win, makes the right passes, like that kind of thing. If he can't score, you know, either in the lane with his floaters or make open shots, then I don't know how much he helps. But he is like, I can understand how the Warriors would justify a player like him who has like high IQ and understands how to, you know, all the intangible stuff, right? I wouldn't count on him to help, you know, almost at all as a rookie, just because, one, he's a rookie, and two, I think athletically he might have some trouble just kind of adjusting. But yeah, I like I mean, he went to Santa Clara. I feel like we should have started with that disclaimer. So
if listeners don't know, that is Grant's alma mater.
So I favor him. I support him. I mean, I can't think of anyone other than Jalen Williams that went there. So, you know, other than like one of my 5 favorite players ever. So yeah, I think I wouldn't count on him, but I like the pick in theory. I guess I'd put it that way.
I don't know enough about him to care or not. I just don't think there was no one drafted after him. I'm like, fuck, like the Warriors should have went that direction.
I mean, Cam Whitmore went right after him. That would be a very, just like,
what this team needs is like, you just traded Jordan Poole and now we're gonna like do the Cam Whitmore experience here. So
yeah. And we're not sure about Jonathan Kuminga yet. I mean, he's still ridiculous potential, but now we're getting a little deep into the career and it hasn't happened yet. So yeah, I get it.